Hey, juniors. I have to apologize to you ahead of time. We're going to go ahead and do this poem, but it's not the one I thought it was. I was mistaken. And I did what you should never do as a teacher. I kind of looked at the title and I kind of glanced through it real quick and I saw the ending and the first one. I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. I remember this one. This is not that poem. All right. In fact, what you're about to get instead is tantamount to one of those reaction videos you see on YouTube where someone's listening to a song for the first time and they're responding to it because I'm kind of going into this blind. I will say I did glance at this once and I started making notes. And then about halfway through this poem, I was like, I think this may have something else going on. So, even though I've spent years studying poetry, there's nothing that says, that you can't still struggle. All right. So we're going to look at this thing and I am going to try to make some sense of it. I mean, it seems pretty basic, but I think there's something else going on with this. I think there's a bit of sarcasm and irony in this, but maybe not. Let's see. Tell you where it kind of first got me, right? So let's look at the poem Contentment by Oliver Wendell Holmes. And again, you should have a printout with this on it that's linked on your OneNote for week 12 agenda, okay? So we'll look at this stanza by stanza. First one says, little I ask, my wants are few. I only wish a hut of stone, a very plain brown stone will do, that I may call my own, and close at hand is such a one, in yonder street that fronts the sun. So far, nothing to it. The first stanza is basically telling you, I don't need fancy houses. I just need a simple stone, a very plain one. Although, on second thought, it is a stone. Maybe it's a nicer house than what a poor person would have. I don't think a lot of poor people would have brownstone homes, but maybe they would. But at this point, I was still in line because you saw the little quote. It says, man wants but little here below. And the title's contentment. And the contentment is to be, it's not so much happy, but it's like you are okay with your lot in life and you're not asking for more. That first stanza seems to hold with it. The second one sent me a little small red flag. I'll show you where it is. It says, plain food is quite enough for me. 3 courses are as good as 10. If nature can subsist on 3, thank heaven for 3. Amen. I always thought cold victual nice. My choice would be vanilla ice. Now, wait a minute. He's talking about cold meats, and is he talking about vanilla ice cream? That seems like a luxury in this time period, not something a poor person would eat. He even mentions about 3 courses of meals, which again, to me, seems a little bit different for someone who is just subsisting on the bare minimum. But at this point, the first time through, I was still locked in on that's okay. Let's look at the third stanza. I care not much for gold or land. Give me a mortgage here and there, some good bank stock, some note of hand, or trifling railroad share. I only ask that fortune send a little more than I shall spend. Now, again, this one kind of, if this poem's supposed to be about not being materialistic, I started to have questions here because he talks about, I don't care much about gold or land, but give me a mortgage, which means he has land. Some good bank stock, a note of hand, or trifling railroad share. These are all like things that the wealthier, even like the upper middle class would have, not the everyday people. So I really was confused at this point. This next one has terms I don't know, and even researching them, I struggled. So let's just go ahead and chalk this one up to I don't get it, but we'll still attack it. His honors are silly toys, I know, and titles are but empty names. I would perhaps be St. Plenipo, but only near St. James. I'm very sure I should not care to fill our gubernator's chair. Now, this one he's talking about not actual possessions. He's talking about power. He's talking about titles. He says, those are silly, but, I would perhaps be a plenipo. And by the way, I had to look that up. Let me tell you what that is really quickly. I've already closed that out, but if you'll give me a second, I'll look it up. I love when I look things up and it says the free dictionary. It says plenipo. It says a rare plenipotentiary diplomat. Like that describes it any better. Let's find plenipotentiary. All right, so this one is, and listen to this wording, a diplomatic agent, such as an ambassador, who's fully authorized to represent his or her government. So he's saying, I'll be fine just being an ambassador, which again, that's a title. That's a pretty high title. Again, I was a little bit worried. I was like, is he really being content, or is he saying I want a bunch of stuff? Now, here's the one that sold me. This one's just a dead giveaway. And I think it's written that way. These get worse. They escalate as you get into it. So listen to this one. Jewels or baubles, 'tis a sin to care for such unfruitful things. One good-sized diamond in a pin, some not so large in rings, a ruby and a pearl or so will do for me. I laugh at show. All right, now I was totally like, nope, this poem is not just about contentment. This guy is meant to be an ironic figure because he's saying, having jewelry is sinful, but by the way, give me some diamonds and a pin and then some rings and a ruby and a pearl, and that's all I need. Well, that's a lot. So obviously, I think that Oliver Wendell Holmes is working with another concept here. Initially, when I read this, there's a poem, and I can't remember who it's by, and I'm really angry at myself, but about a guy who was talking about just give me the bare minimum, that's all I need. And he says, when I die, I'm okay being, you know, buried where no one will ever know. And I thought that was kind of the area this one was going in. I think that's incorrect. There's more, though. There's several more stanzas. And again, these are escalating. It says, my dame should dress in cheap attire. Good heavy silks are never dear. I own perhaps I might desire some shawls of true cashmere, some marrowy crepes of China silk like wrinkled skins on scalded milk. Again, this is now very expensive. We've gone from expensive jewelry to expensive clothing. This guy is not content with, he wants a lot. He's not content with the bare minimum. So I would not have the horse I drive so fast that folks must stop and stare. An easy gait, 245, suits me, I do not care. Perhaps for just a single spurt, some seconds less would do no hurt. Okay, I'm imagining that whatever this means is he wants a fast horse. He says, I don't really need one that's all that fast, but then he picks a fast speed and says maybe just for, to show off one that's a little quicker at times. Of pictures I should like to own, oh man, Titians, I don't know, and Raphaels, 3 or 4. I love so much their style and tone. One Turner and no more. A landscape, foreground, golden dirt, the sunshine painted with a squirt. Now this one again, he's talking about, I don't need any fancy art, and then he lists a bunch of fancy art. Of books, but few, some 50 score for daily use and bound for wear. The rest upon an upper floor, some little luxury there of red Morocco's gilded gleam and vellum rich as country cream. All right, this guy is like, he's officially not about like I'd like a little small house in the country. Now it's I want to be the richest man in the city. I mean, it's ridiculous what this has escalated to. Busts, cameos, gems, such things as these, which others often show for pride, I value for their power to please, and selfish churls deride. One Stradivarius, I confess, to meerschaums I would fain possess. I don't know. Stradivarius is a type of violin. Maybe that's the thing here that he's talking about. It's a very expensive violin. It says, wealth's wasteful tricks I will not learn, no, nor ape the glittering upstart fool. Shall not carve tables serve my turn, but all must be of bull. I don't know what that is. Give grasping pomp its double share. I ask but one recumbent chair. Now we're talking about fancy furniture, okay? So look at all of the fancy stuff he's asking for, okay? He's like, I'm content with my life the way it is, but give me all of, and then he lists all this crazy stuff. And then this is what threw me the first time I just kind of glanced at this poem was this. It's this line, this humble let me live and die. I'm thinking it's Alexander Pope that wrote this initial poem, which would have been several centuries before. So maybe this is somewhat mocking that. And by mocking, I don't mean he's making fun of that poem. I mean he's making a more realistic version of this. So let's read this final stanza, then we're going to talk about it a little bit. It says, this humble let me live and die, nor long for Midas's golden touch. If heaven more generous gifts deny, I shall not miss them much. Too grateful for the blessing lent of simple tastes and mind content. Now, again, this ending kind of throws me a little bit because it kind of seems to go back to what I initially thought that this poem was about, he says, thus humble let me live and die. Well, I mean, none of this stuff is about humility. There's a ton of stuff on here that's very expensive that he's saying he would like to have. And he says, if heaven more generous gifts deny, I shall not miss them. And then the word much, and it's in italics, meaning, he's not really content with the things when he says of simple taste and mind content. He obviously doesn't have simple taste. And the concept of being content means you're happy with things the way you are. One of the greatest things to be is to be, not, and I don't want to say poor because poverty by itself is not, that's not the goal. But if you can be like content and you don't have a lot, then you're not worried about losing all the time. And it's not in a situation where you're constantly concerned about your stuff. But if you could be, but most of us can't be content in that situation. But I've talked with my wife before about what I would love to just live out in the middle of the mountains in the woods somewhere. And, get by with the food we need, cooking every day out there, maybe having a little garden, grilling out on the grill every day or on a fire inside, cutting down my own wood to have a fire at night, enjoying the stars, very little, maybe even by candlelight. I would have some electricity. I'm not a savage, obviously. But, I mean, I would be content with that because I would enjoy it, just getting to spend time, maybe a couple of real close friends that live nearby or with us even, so that we have company and just that to me would be ideal. And, that would be a contending life. You wouldn't need a lot of stuff. I could get behind that sort of living. But I don't think this man here agrees. Okay, so what do we do with this in the context of studying the fireside poets and what makes America America? Well, look at the sense of greed that you see showing up in here. And I think that may be what's going on, that Oliver Wendell Holmes is commenting on that element of people saying, I'm happy just the way I am. I don't need stuff, but by all means, please give me stuff. Now, that feels very American in a lot of ways. And I'm not trying to insult us. I'm trying to point to some of our flaws so we can improve them. But we do tend to be a materialistic people. And I'm not going to lie, I have some nice stuff. When I got a new record player, I didn't want to go and get just like the little cheap one you get at Books A Million that's like $50. I looked at the high end ones because I wanted one that sounded really good and took good care of my records, which I spent a ton of money on as well. Luxury items, okay? I have several video game systems I don't need. We have a big TV. We have, some nice stuff. I don't have a lot in the way of nice clothes, but I don't care about clothing. So yeah, I'm guilty of this too. But the fact is that, in this time period, you would see a lot more poverty in people who had very little, and then you would see people that had a lot. And we still see that in our country now, in our world now, this big disparity and the concept of being content with what you have. We really aren't. And even today, with so much more exposure to the stuff other people have, whether it's through YouTube videos or whether it's through TV or whatever, you see these other things, and we're just a very discontented people because we constantly want things we can't have. And it makes us very unhappy, and that is depressing because the Lord's blessed us all with a lot of things we may not consider when we're thinking about, I wish I had what this person had. We're blessed with a lot. Poverty in this world, in some places, is abysmal, and it's to see what people go through is frightening. So learning to be more content is something that we should do, and that's a great thing here. This poem really, speaks to that. The concept of the American dream should be about contentment. We talk about the American dream in every one of our sections we look at. And really, one of the elements that it should be today is about finding peace with who you are and what you do. If you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. You may not make much money, but I'm content with my job. There's days it drives me nuts, but everyone goes through that. I love what I do. I feel like I make a difference occasionally, and that's something that a lot of people can't say. So I've learned to be content in my situation and not wish for things like, well, I want to move up the ladder to, UMS where I can get paid more, or well, I want to move up to the college level so I can teach there. I mean, I'd love to teach in college, mainly so I could have people talk back with me about stuff instead of me standing up here at a podium preaching to you guys and you guys not really listening to anything or just repeating what I say on a test. It'd be so much better to have people, interacting and more about a community rather than me being up here on a stage teaching. So I would like it for that reason, but it's not because of the prestige or the money, because the money's not even that much more depending on where you teach. So this finding contentment is really important. I think there's a little bit of irony in this poem because this person says, hey, I like simple things, and then he lists a bunch of fancy things that would make him happy and make him finally content. And again, this is that idea of greed. Nothing is never enough. Nothing is ever enough. Sorry, double negative there. Nothing's ever enough. We always want more. And when we think we're going to be content with something, you think you're going to be content with that new car, or that new house, or that new game. And then after a while, you get tired of it and you want the next thing. And that's one of the ways that the devil really gets at us, to be honest with you, is this desire for the new. And this poem kind of speaks to that. So when I started this, it's not really what I thought it was, but I like it. I like the message here. Now, I will tell you, the two tomorrow I know, so I'm not going to get tricked on them, so don't worry. So hopefully the questions I wrote up, let me look real quick, in fact. Let's see if these questions even match up with what we're doing. Week 12. Let's go. Contentment. Discuss the importance of the titles. How does this poem challenge what we see as American today? That works. What are the things the speaker finds contentment in? That one's kind of funny, but it definitely still fits. So all of these will still work. So we can definitely still use all those questions, and you could probably get them from the conversation we've had. All right. Well, guys, I went a little longer because I got a little preachy here at the end, but this is the first time me going through this poem. I don't have anybody to discuss it with. So I was just kind of talking to myself. So hopefully it was useful for you. Hopefully those of you watching this could get something from it, and hopefully it'll help you when it comes test time. All right, well, I'm going to end it here. Tomorrow we're going to tackle the first snowfall, which is such a depressing poem, and then we're going to do burning driftwood, which just the imagery in that makes me happy. So I love discussing it. So anyway, Excuse me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for enduring this if you made it to the end. And I will check in with you tomorrow.